In this video, we will learn how to set up the days for your convention. We are starting here on the home page of our sample convention because I'm going to show you first how to get to the convention days setup page. Note that the home page will display the dates and times that your convention is open to attendees, and this information is displayed here on the right hand side under the title Dates. Now, we haven't set up any days yet, of course, and what the page displays when we have no days yet set up is a little alert that tells us we still need to set up our days. And in the alert is a link that would take you directly to the page for setting up your convention days. I'm going to show you a more general way to get there because that alert goes away once you've set up any convention days. And the way you get there generally is go to the Convention Tools menu and you click on Convention Setup. This takes you to a set of general settings for your convention. And you want to click on the Dates link in the navigation bar on this page. And that takes us to the page for setting up our convention days. So first, let's take a brief tour of the page here and then go over the times that are available for the convention day before we get to creating the days. The page is very simple. There are two sections. The top section is the table, which will display the information about your convention days, which is titled Convention Days. And of course, right now our table is empty. These are the columns right here you can see. Those are column headings. And then below that is the form with which you will create your convention days. So let's go over the times that are available for a convention day. There are 5. These are sets of times. These involve, all of these 5 items involve a start time and an end time. So these are not like single times, but they represent a range with a beginning and an end. So the first time are your day start and end times. And then these control all the other times. All the other times have to be within the range that you define with the day start and end. And there are 4 other items that, or 4 other sets of times that can go in there. There's the attendee times. These are the times when your convention is open to attendees. And then there are the events schedule times and exhibitor setup times, and then also times when exhibitors can exhibit. These last 3 times only will appear if you have enabled certain things for your convention. So for the event schedule times, this will only appear if you have enabled ticket sales in your convention, which would be selling tickets for events, and that is actually done in a different section for your convention. That is actually done under the registration section for your convention. And then the other 2 times, exhibitor setup and exhibit times, these will only appear if you have enabled the exhibitor part of your convention. And that, again, is also enabled at a different section than where we are now. That's exhibited under, enabled under exhibitor sponsors under convention tools. So if you do not have ticket sales enabled, or if you do not have the exhibitors enabled for your convention, these times will not show up at all on this page, and you would only see the day start and end times and the attendee times. That's something to keep in mind when you're going to set up your convention days. If you know that your convention is going to have events, such as games or seminars or so on, that you're going to sell tickets to, or if you know that your convention is going to have exhibitors at it, you should enable those parts under your convention setup before you come here to create your convention days. Because if you say, for example, don't enable exhibitors when you create your convention days, but then you enable it later because you always knew you were going to have exhibitors at your convention, you will have to come back to the convention days and re-enter the times for the exhibitor setup and the exhibit times. You wouldn't have to create the days again, but you would have to add those times to the days that you had already set up. So you want to enable those sections of your convention before you set up the convention days if you know you're going to use them. Okay, so let's move on to creating convention days. So we come down here to the form to create our convention days, and the way, in a nutshell, that this works is that we will add the information for our convention date times into the form, and when we're done, we click on Create, and it will create the day for the convention, and that day will appear up here in the table. So it'll see the days appearing as you create them with the form. Now, something to keep in mind is that the form was designed with particular workflow in mind, and that is simply that you would create your convention days in calendar order. So if you have a convention day on the 1st of some month, on a Thursday, so Thursday the 1st of whatever month we're talking about, and that it ends on Sunday the 4th of that month, you would create them in the order Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The form will save you more work if you observe that workflow. You don't have to observe that workflow, but you will probably lose a little labor-saving gimmicks that the form provides if you don't make your days in the normal calendar order. So now I'll create a convention day. What I'll do first is just create a sample day, including all the times that a convention day can have. That way you can have a complete example from a single convention day. And I'll go slowly and explain things as I go. And after that, I'll create multiple days in a row using the workflow I mentioned earlier. And I'll go a bit more quickly for that and give a little less explanation. So the first thing you do when you're creating a convention day is you select its type. And there are two types of convention day, events and organizer. An events day is a day for attendees, and an organizer day is a day for the organizer to schedule activities that are for setup or for teardown. These would be on days after or before the normal convention days. An events day will have times associated with attendees. You can see below there's the attendee start time and end time, and also the event schedule start time and end time, because I have ticket sales enabled for this convention. If I pick events, you can see those times are there. If I pick organizer, you see those times go away. I'm going to pick events because we want to use all the times for the day. Next, you need to enter a name for the day, and you want to keep the names of your days distinct and easily understood, of course, because these names will be used all over the site and on tickets and badges and things like that. So I'm just going to set up this, just name this as a sample day. So now let's add the times to our convention day. So the way the form normally works is when you save a day, the form will default to the same times that you used for the day you just saved, but on the next day. So if I create a Thursday and I save that Thursday, the form will then show the exact same times that I entered for the Thursday, but for the Friday, so the day after the Thursday. Now this does not work when you're creating your first day. So what the form does is when you create your first day, when you set the convention day start time, it will set all of the times in the form to the same time that you set for the convention day start time. And then when you set the convention day end time, it will set all the end times in the form to the time you set for the convention day end time. What this does in the first place for the convention day start time is it means you don't have to pick the day every time you want to set a time. So I'm going to set this to September, Tuesday the 24th at 8 a.m. Now you can see that every time in the form has been set to September 24th at 8 a.m. And now I will set the convention day end time, and you can see I only have to go down to the 8 p.m. because it's already set to the right day. And now all of the end times in the form are set to 8 p.m. Now, what you should do while you're doing this is, while you're entering times or while you're changing times, is refer to the column on the right where there's a little description that is populated as you enter times or as you change your times. And each description contains a title, it shows you the time range, and it gives you a little bit of help text to remind you what those times are for. So for example, at the top we have day, because this is just the convention day, and we have the time range 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then the help text says controls when you can schedule volunteer shifts, because in fact the convention day start time and end time do control when you can set up volunteer shifts. And then below that there's attendees and the time range 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and the help text attendees is when the convention is open to attendees, and so on. So you want to, it'll probably be easier to refer to these brief descriptions of the times than to try to read what's actually in the time selection inputs themselves. So now let's set up the other times in the form. Now the form is not going to help out with the other times other than what I've already shown you, because while you are unlikely to use exactly the same times for all of the different available times, the form doesn't really have a way of guessing what you want. So other than setting the times after you enter the convention day start time and the convention day end time, it's not going to change anything. So I'm going to, though, set up this as the attendee start time is going to be at 8:45, so attendees can show up at 8:45, and attendee the attendee end time will be 7:30. So right now I've set my day to my normal day, my convention day goes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but the attendees can show up at 8:45 and then must leave by 7:30. So the doors are open from 8:45 to 7:30. The scheduled events are going to be from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. So you can see now my attendees can show up at 8:45 and my events start at 9 a.m. and my events end at 7 p.m. and then the attendees must leave the venue by 7:30 p.m. Now I'm also going to have exhibitor times on this day, and to actually engage exhibitor times for a day, you have to pick this select box that says this day does have exhibitor times. So you can see I'm now showing the exhibitor start time and end time and the exhibit start time and end time. And these times are set to what I set originally in my convention day start time and end time, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now the exhibitor start time is, the exhibitor times, start time and end time, are for setup for exhibitors, and the exhibit start time and end time is when they may exhibit, when they may have their booths open. The exhibit start time and end time does not appear unless you have an events day, as we have up here. But the exhibitor start time and end time will show up for organizer days, because the assumption then is that is when they're allowed to move in or move out or whatever they need to do to set up. So I'm going to set these times to, let's say the exhibitors can start setting up at 9, and then the exhibitors have to be out of the venue by 6. And the times when they can exhibit, let's say 10 a.m. and they can exhibit until 5 p.m. And actually I've set up the wrong time here by accident. I have Wednesday, September 25th at 6 p.m. as my exhibitor end time. That's actually after the convention day end time, so I will show you what happens when I try to create a day with a time that's out of bounds. I'll get an error. So I'm going to create that. You can see my error message says exhibitor end time cannot be after the convention day ends. So I know that I have a wrong exhibitor end time, and I go down here and I see it's on the wrong date, and I go back to September 24th and I put it on 6 p.m. for September 24th. So I've done my days, and let's just review again. I have a day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. the attendees can show up from 8:45 until 7:30 p.m. The events for my convention run on this day from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now the exhibitors can be in the exhibit hall from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they can actually have their booths open and exhibit from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that's done. So now I'm going to click Create, and we have the little spinny thing for a moment. You can see the defaults changed. First, let's look at the day. So you can see up here it's showing the sample day, Tuesday, September 24th, and it shows day start and end, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., attendee times 8:45 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., event schedule 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and so on. And there's the day type events. And we can see down here that it reset the form to the same times, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8:45 to 7:30, 9 a.m. to 7, but for Wednesday, September 25th. And that's how the form will normally work when you're entering one day after another. Okay, so I went ahead and deleted that sample day that we just created. And now I'm going to create several days in a row and step through each in calendar order using the workflow for the form to save myself some data entry. So the first day I'm going to create is going to be an organizer day. So you can see that limits the times available for the day. And I'm going to call this setup day 1, and it is just going to have times for staff. So I'm going to set this up on September, Tuesday the 24th at 8 a.m. And then I'm going to set the end of that day at 8 p.m. And there we have it. That's all I need to do for that day. I'm not going to have exhibitors for that day. I'm going to add them to the next day. So I click Create. We can see I have the day showing up in my table above. Now this form has preserved defaults. It's preserved the day type. So I don't have to pick organizer for this day, which I'm going to take advantage of. I'm going to create another organizer day, and it also preserves the whatever I had for use exhibitor times for the previous day. So I'm going to call this day setup day 2 / move in, and the times are already set to where I want them, duplicated from the previous day. And I'm going to engage the exhibitor times for this day. You can see because it's an organizer day, only the exhibitor start and end times display. And they too are already at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., which is what I want. So I'm going to click Create. So now I have 2 days up above. And the first day is just for staff setup, and the second day is for staff and also for exhibitors to move in. Now the next day and the next several days are going to be events days. So now we have all the times showing. I'm going to call this day 1 Thursday. And this is going to be sort of a half day for attendees and events. So the convention start time is going to be from 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm going to change the end time to be 11 p.m. from 8 p.m. Now you can see that did not change the times, the end times for the rest of the form, because that only happens when I create my first day. The attendee start time is going to be, I'm going to set this to 2:30 in the afternoon until 10:30. And the event start time is going to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's going to end at 10 p.m. So while my day goes from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., my attendees can only show up at 2:30. And the idea is that the first half of the day is going to be for setup. So I'm going to leave the exhibitor start time at 8 a.m. and exhibitor end time going to change to be 10 p.m. So exhibitors can now be present in the exhibit hall from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm going to set the exhibit times to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So there's my Thursday. So I'm going to create. Oops, attendee end time cannot be after the convention day end. Yes, because I chose the wrong day. Okay, now it's the right day. Create. And now I have 3 days. Day 1 Thursday with staff on site from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Exhibitors can be in the exhibit hall from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and attendees can be in the venue from 10:30 p.m. or from 2:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. and exhibitors can exhibit from 9 to 9. So now I'm going to create my next events day, and I'm actually going to change this as well. This is going to go, right now it's going to 11 p.m. on the same day, but I'm going to change it to go to 1 a.m. on Friday. So my Friday goes from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Saturday. And since this is a full events day, I'm going to set the attendee time from 8:30 a.m. until 12:45 a.m. on Saturday. And the events will go from 9 a.m. on Friday until 12:30 on Saturday. So I've changed the day, the times from the day from 8 a.m. in the morning to 1 a.m. the following day. The attendees can show up at 8:30 and then they have to leave 15 minutes before the end of the day, 12:45, and the events will go from 9 a.m., a half hour after the attendees show up, to 12:30 a.m. And I'm going to leave the exhibitor times the way they are. So I click Create. And there's the day, day 2 Friday, as I just described. Now I'm not going to change anything for day 3. It's going to go exactly the same as day 2. So I leave everything the same. I just go down and click Create. And there we have day 3, exact duplicate of day 2. Day 4 will be Sunday, and this is going to be a half day again, but the other way around. So it starts at 8 a.m. and it will end at 5 p.m., let's say 4 p.m. on Sunday. Now all of these times are out of range, so they will have to be changed. But it doesn't change them for you because we don't really know, the form doesn't really know what you're going to want. So the attendee end time is going to be until 3. And the event end time is also going to be 3. The exhibitor setup time is going to be between 8 and 3, and exhibit time is going to be between 9 and 2 p.m. So I'm going to create that day. So I have 4 days, and then my very last day is going to be another organizer day. I'll call that strike day. Monday, September 30th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and we'll change, and we're going to leave that the same. So there we go. So there's how you can set up several days in a row if you're doing it in calendar order.